Your cell phone and wireless are perfectly safe. That's what the industry would like to have you believe. But it just isn't so. Don't be fooled. Hi, I'm Allison Heath, the Longevity Rescuer and host of the EMF Summit. I was speaking to Sharon Noble, one of the guests on the EMF Summit. She's the director of Citizens for Safe Technologies and StopSmartMetersBC.com. It was very interesting, the story that she was relating to me. She was saying that cardiologists are noticing an increase in heart arrhythmia that has expanded exponentially over the last few years. And some of them are actually attributing it to EMF radiation. This is the radiation that we're getting from our smart meters, from our wireless devices, from our cell phones. It really is worthwhile for us to become aware of this. I was speaking to a woman in the post office, and I said that I was doing the EMF Summit. She said, well, what's EMF? So I started describing it to her. And I said, do you have children? And she said, yes. I said, do you have any grandchildren? She said, yes. And I said, well, do they have wireless in their school? And she said, all schools have wireless, Allison. Like I was some kind of idiot. And it's interesting because some countries are removing wireless from their schools. And even in Ontario, we have schools, the Catholic school system has removed wireless from the classrooms. It's so bizarre because all of these schools are already wired. So they could use Ethernet cables and they could have safe technology available for the children. But they're not doing that. Sharon was telling me about Simcoe County. And in Simcoe County, what they did was they installed this smart meters, not the smart meters, they installed the wireless in the school, and very shortly afterwards, several of the students started having heart attacks, and I believe some were fatal. Dr. Magda Havas, who's another guest on the EMF Summit, she suggested to one of the parents of a child who was having heart arrhythmia and was going to need to go in for an operation for a pacemaker. She said to the father, she said, listen, before you take your child in for an operation for a pacemaker, because that's something you really want to avoid in a young person, and she said, before you do that, why don't you keep the child away from school for a few days, turn off the wireless in your home, get rid of the wireless, use wired with Ethernet cable computers. The father did. Lo and behold, didn't the child recover? Now, that's a pretty good indicator if ever there was one. It would be of our better interest not to use wireless in schools. You see, there's something called the precautionary principle. This means taking precautions, being aware that this technology could be harming our health, and taking precautions in our use of it before it's proven, quote unquote. Because you see, what's happening is there's so many studies that were done by credible scientists, like Dr. Henry Lai, he proved that there was neurological damage happening to the DNA from EMF radiation at low levels. He was discredited. They tried to get him fired. All these different things happened in his life for stepping out, standing up, and speaking. So many of the physicians are afraid to speak. Some of the scientists are really concerned because their funding is going to dry up and they depend on that funding to go forward. Understand that these technologies are not safe. Dr. Samuel Milham is saying that the cause of most of our diseases is coming from EMF radiation. Young children are the most susceptible. Young children, elderly people, and the ill and infirm. These are the people that are going to be the most exposed, and a hospital environment is full of electromagnetic radiation. So it's really up to us to start understanding. As Dr. Samuel Milham was saying, he's an epidemiologist with over 50 years of studying this. He said the only thing that's going to stop industry are going to be lawsuits. It's going to take some massive lawsuits happening. In British Columbia, Sharon Noble was explaining to me that they have 2 class action lawsuits that are going on now currently. One of them with the Charter of Human Rights, because the Charter of Human Rights states that we should be protected. In this case, we are definitely not being protected. In the case of smart meters, in some cases, you don't have the ability to opt out. And yet, people are coming with notes from their doctors saying that they cannot be exposed to electromagnetic radiation, such as these smart meters are pulsing out all the time. This is being ignored by the hydro company. They're just installing the meter anyway. So that's an infringement of the Human Rights Charter. For this reason, there's a lawsuit. More countries are becoming aware. More countries are stepping up. The citizens are going to be the one. It's only going to be the citizens. But before you have a child that needs to have a pacemaker, before you put in a pacemaker or anything like that, try turning off the wireless and seeing what happens. You may not be able to control what happens in the school. I was speaking to one of my dear friends, and she was saying that, as a principal of the school, she doesn't have any say at all for getting this school safe. So you may not be able to do anything with the school at this point, but you can certainly do something for your home. And it's at nighttime when your child is sleeping, that is the time that you need to be the most vigilant in lowering the EMF radiation. Don't give your child a cell phone. Don't have them play with it as a toy with their games on it. Remove the wireless from your home. Protect yourself. Do what you can to be safe. And join me on the EMF Summit. Listen to what these experts have to say. Find out about credible science, the real studies that have been going on that, are the ones that are going to help you understand what's happening. Not the junk science and the tons of studies that are being pumped out, industry-funded studies that have a completely different result because they bought off the people. Unfortunately, the results aren't accurate. Come and join me on the EMF Summit and learn more. Protect yourself, protect your family, and make sure that the children for the next generation and the following generation have a safe life. With that, I wish you the best year yet.